Hello and welcome everybody to the 1920s, the Roaring Twenties. It's been 100 years. And what better way to celebrate the Roaring Twenties than with a ladies' putter? This was back when women were fighting for their right to wear whatever they want to the beach. We don't want to wear a long skirt to the beach. Maybe you can wear a swimsuit to the beach. All right. So this club, to me, represents a very interesting era. You know me, I like vintage clubs, and I divide things into vintages, right? So there's the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, and it goes all the way back to the 20s and further. But to me, the 20s is where you're pushing that like antique zone, okay? So we have vintage modern, we have vintage kind of more classic mid-century, and then we have vintage antiques. Now, this was back when clubs were made by hand. They were hammered out, the grooves were cut by hand. You know, it was just an amazing time. Yeah, they used lathes to make the hickory shafts. Okay, fine. But the heads were absolutely amazing. And a maker made your head and put it together and put the leather grips on. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal. I love these clubs so much. We really want to take this gem on the review table and have a closer look. The first thing I want to point out is this L right here that signifies ladies. Can you see that tiny little L stamped right there? Manufacturers during the 1920s, during this era, just had an L stamp, and they would just stamp an L. Some have an L with a circle, some are just an L, and that signifies a ladies' club. And stories go that if they would mess up on a men's club, they would just throw it in a different pile because the swing weight was too light for a man's club, and they would just make it a ladies' club. But supposedly the best manufacturers made ladies' clubs, I don't know, on purpose. So we'll see. So either way, this was made by Tom Stewart, and you can see putter special 9. Back in the era, this was before like 2-through pitching wedge matched sets. Tom Stewart is credited for actually making matched sets, but this was back when it was just like you'd put a 9 or a 10 or an 11, and that would be your putter. It's just how it was, it wasn't a mashie or anything. So here it says hand forged, made in Scotland, maker here, St. Andrews, all the markings right here. It says T. Stewart, maker, St. Andrews. And then there's a clay pipe. This was the Tom Stewart logo in the early 1900s. Was it 1905 when he adopted that pipe, that clay pipe? And you can see underneath it, it says more of the Tom Stewart branding here. So pretty easy to recognize this as a ladies' club, as a Tom Stewart putter. Wonderful. Looking at the sole, look at this beautiful patina. I love this, like, the way the metal ages. It's so pretty. And then the toe profile looks very much like you would expect a bladed putter to look. Make sure that focuses here for you. And I love handmade clubs. I can't tell you enough how cool it is to see like this dimpling pattern on the hitting area of this putter. Notice it's heel biased because that's where the center of gravity is. It's slightly heel biased. Look at this. I love that anyway. And then let's have a quick look at the top line here. Kind of at address, very thin butter blade putter style right here. No alignment aids, just that straight edge down by the ball. Very phenomenal. Looks like it's just some damage. This is not part of the design, that little nick right there. Someone just dropped it on an iron. Moving up the hosel, we have a pin right here. So this is pinned, which was very common in the Hickory era. So pinned, and you can see the nicking around the top line here. They call it nicking. I also like the really rudimentary sawtooth nicking, where it's just like really roughly hammered in there to this lovely hickory shaft. And this shaft is pretty short. Like I said, ladies' club. This is, you can see, nailed here. And then this looks like it must have been repaired or something. Lots of times they'll varnish this or something to kind of make it more smooth. And this is pretty coarse string they have here. Either way, this leather also looks like it's in pretty bad condition. Looks like somebody might have actually tried to apply some sort of poly coat to this or something. Shellac it or something. I don't know what that all is. And there's some more string up here with just a plain wood. The hickory shaft exposed at the butt. Let's get this lovely putter out on the practice green and see how it feels. This is the Tootsie Pop of antique clubs. Does that make sense? How many bites does it take? No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's the gateway candy, right? So when little kids are like really young, you don't want to give them hard candies. And parents would give them suckers, you know. And it was really funny. Like my buddy had twins, and one of them looks up at him and he's like, "I got this here sucker." We were like, "What? What did you just say?" It's like funny to hear them say that word, but it's a gateway on a stick to really antique, cool vintage Hickory clubs. Because even like a ladies model is very puttable, and you can get these for $10 a dozen. These are so cheap. These aren't sought after by collectors, right? They're like, oh, it's a ladies version. Sell it for $20 on eBay. Pick one of these up. You can put it in your bag. You know, nobody's going to unless they watch this video, nobody's going to know that tiny little L is a ladies club. And this is a great club that you can put in your bag with any set. And when you whip this out, it'll get attention. People are like, "What are you putting with?" And they're just like, "Oh, it's a antique Tom Stewart made in Scotland. St. Andrews." It's like, whoa, that's awesome. And people are going to want to putt with your putter. And it's really non-threatening because you don't have to worry about, oh no, is the shaft going to break? Is it well mounted? Is the head going to come off? Because you're putting with it. Now, I know there are people, I golfed with one of my buddies, he putts from the fairway, okay? That aside, if you're on the green and using this to putt, it's not going anywhere, okay? So absolutely lovely putter. And if you're interested in getting into, I would recommend starting with a putter and then working your way. Get your mashie and all your other mid-irons and everything else you need to complete your set. So fabulous, fabulous vintage. We're going to explore a lot more Hickory on this channel. It's just taking it. There's a lot of material to get through. I have a bunch of really interesting content coming. Please subscribe if you're interested. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to my patrons for your support. I offer general support. I post a few updates every month. Thank you again to my patrons. If you want to support the channel in another way, you can visit my Amazon shop. I am an Amazon associate. I make proceeds from qualifying purchases. Thank you so much for watching. I am the Vintage Golfer.